Joining me now is advertising expert and the co-founder of DPR&Co, Richard Ralphsmith. Tell me why you say this new ad with Johnny Farnham, it's short version, there's a long version. You're saying it's doing more good for the no camp than the yes camp. Why?
Well, I think possibly so, Rita. And by the way, I love Johnny Farnham and I'm not going to have a word against him. But I think the You're the Voice campaign is so aligned with government thinking and so in lockstep with them that it's completely misread the public mood, and the public has been sort of forgotten in all of this.
Well, it is. It's all sort of surface level feel-good sentiment. It's not getting deep into the discussion on the merits of the Voice, is it?
No, that's right. And I think that's been one of the key flaws of the Voice political campaign throughout, which is that they've been selling on the vibe. They haven't managed to convince ordinary Australians of the practical benefits to the most disadvantaged Indigenous Australians of the Voice. And if they were able to do that, I think that they would probably sway a lot more undecided voters. But this campaign that they're running at the moment, it's emotionally manipulative. It only talks about the vibe of the campaign. It equates the change with some of the greatest historical moments of the last sort of 50 years. And people don't feel that way about it. People are concerned about it and are ready to be convinced if only they could be shown some practical ways of how the most disadvantaged Indigenous Australians could be benefited by this, and they're not showing that.
It is fairly bizarre to me, who's passionate about this issue, obviously, and talks about it constantly, to try to equate Australia winning the America's Cup with a referendum about enshrining race into our constitution. I mean, what parallels am I missing there? Explain it to me.
I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to pretend that those two things are the same. A moment that was unequivocally unifying for everybody.
Yeah.
And then just saying, oh, and this is going to be just as unifying, just get on board.
Yeah.
And people are actually thinking about it more deeply than that. People realise that this is a fundamental change, and if I'm going to vote for it, give me the rational reasons to vote for it. I think there's a huge amount of goodwill among everyday Australians to improve the lot of Indigenous Australians.
Oh, absolutely.
Indeed, it is a shame on our nation that government after government after government has failed to improve the lot of the most disadvantaged Australians. And if they could find a way to get those points across, if they could show people living in these remote communities and say, look, this is the situation now, this is how that person is going to be helped, I think they could win it. But I don't know how they can do that now.
Well, I think part of the problem with that approach is it's very difficult to actually show how the Voice is going to do any of that.
No, that's right.
At all. I mean, if that was the case, then you wouldn't have so many people who would be vehemently against it, because as you said, just about every Australian wants the very best outcomes for our Indigenous population. This is interesting because whilst we've got one side cashed up, this massive war chest, these ads they're going to bombard the nation with, the other side doesn't have that kind of money, so they have to concentrate their messaging in South Australia and Tasmania. They can't have these saturation ads in the big Sydney and Melbourne markets. Really different battle happening there. Thank you so much for your insights. Really do appreciate getting that
Thank you, Rita.
insight from an advertising man, and we'll speak to you again. Don't go